Hello, everyone. This is Starzina33 here, Laura Francesca at Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and so much more. How is everybody doing today upon waking up on the Super Bowl and all the Bad Bunny videos? So I'm going to be talking about here on the NFL ratings. It have not came out. It's just too soon for it to come out. But I'm going to be focused on the 2025 ratings and what does this mean for 2026. So as we begin talking about here of the ratings and everything, a lot of us woke up most likely with videos. I looked at the videos of the halftime show of Bad Bunny because, everybody's talking about it, right? And his message, with, you know, immigrants and nationalities and so forth, right? And it's, something very rebellious, right? Because it goes against Trump's MAGA and, and so forth. And so, so it's interesting, when you're rebellious like that, people want to watch it. They want to know what's going to happen and so forth. There was even a prediction, okay, in Mexico, I believe it's a psychic, it's a tarot reader. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to debunk anybody or anything like that, but she pulled the Tower card. And, the Tower card, it means that there was going to be a chaos and something was going to happen to Bad Bunny. He needed to protect himself and so forth. And maybe things were avoided because, they were wearing all white. And if you look at the video, it has a lot of Haitian, in Latin America, they have a lot of the Haitian, like in Cuba, right? There's a lot like Africo-American, Caribbean, Puerto Rican, and so forth, and they all look different, some of them are really like they look like black people. There's like black people, and then some have like blue eyes and green eyes, and I think it's the same thing in Mexico. In Mexico, there's no black people, but Mexicans, they're tanned, and those would come from like the Aztec times, right? And then there's those really European ones that have blue eyes and green eyes. And so we're all a mix of, Latinos and Mexicans, of how we look and how we represent. So, it's interesting, the video and everything, but according to this Mexican psychic said that something might happen to him if he doesn't protect himself, right? And so, I don't know, I didn't really see it that bad, I was very optimistic for him because he's a Pisces. I'm a Pisces myself. I'm actually a triple Pisces. And Pisces have Saturn on us. This is why, I go based on astrology and I do the astro weather and so forth. I feel it's very credible. A lot of the predictions I've said have come to pass, and I didn't really feel that bad banning, bad banning. Okay, I'm saying banning now. Bad Bunny, I didn't feel he was in danger, really, to tell you the truth, because Saturn is protecting Pisces. It's still in there in Pisces, and it's already wrapping up. It's in its final degrees and ready for Aries to jump in there, right? And so, and I looked at the chart and I was like, oh, wow. And I did mention, okay, the Star of David, was transiting during the time of the NFL. So there was a lot of protection upon Bad Bunny, right? And his performance. And they were all wearing white, which shows protection. In medical astrology, white symbolizes protection. Also in spirituality, they use white when they want to be pure and clean and start on a new fresh start, right? So, and so I looked at the chart and it looked like, he was going to have a good time. He was going to have this influence over a lot of people. I mean, when I finished looking at the video in TV, I said, wow, it's game over, right? And so there is some sort of impact, and he is a Pisces, so there's been a lot of luck on Pisces right now. There is a lot of luck. If you are a Pisces and you're listening to this, go play the lotto or something. There is a lot of, especially because the asteroid of strategy is in Pisces as well. Banks is in Pisces as well. So Pisces have a lot of favor with banks right now with money. They're protecting their money. And I had a situation today, which I'm not going to talk about, and that was protected. And, so no more funny stuff with Pisces. Okay. And it's because we did the work. Okay. Pisces did the work. We had Saturn for 3 years. And so we had a lot of breakdowns. We had a lot of, wins and losses as well. And we had a lot of lessons learned. I don't really believe in losses, to tell you the truth. I believe in more, and there was a lesson that was learned, and you grew out of that lesson, and now you know what not to do. Right. And so there was a growth, there was some kind of learning in that whatever happened, whatever breakdown could have happened during Saturn and Pisces. And so now, you got to take care of it, right? Now you learn from it, and now you grow from it, and now you do different things and, go a different way, not the same way. And that's what Saturn does. But it's also very protective. And a lot of Pisces right now are very protected right now. They're very protected by Saturn. Because there was a Star of David, there was a lot of trines there with water. Okay, the moon was in Scorpio. It was also trining the moon in Scorpio. Saturn was getting along with the moon. Saturn was getting along with the North Node and banks. I mean, it was ridiculous. When I seen the chart, I was like, wow, that is a lot of luck. And because Bad Bunny is a Pisces, okay, he was going to have a lot of luck, a lot of blessings, and very supported by Saturn, very supported by banks, very supported. And so we wake up, and not just for Bad Bunny, this is for other Pisces as well, but also for the collective as well. We've all gone through Saturn and Pisces. It's taught us lessons in that. But right now, I do have to say its favorite is Pisces, okay? Because it's in the sign of Pisces right now. And so go play some lotto or go do something that makes you feel good, and just, buy a perfume or something. You know what I mean? I'm always like smelling good, looking good. Like, I don't like to look messy or nothing like that because that's all frequency. Okay. And so let's talk about the numbers. Okay. So this podcast is going to be about the NFL Spanish language ratings. Okay. The numbers that matter. So let's talk numbers, real numbers, because when it comes to sports, media, ratings tell a bigger story than hype. Okay. So according to Nielsen, which is the Spanish language broadcast of Super Bowl in 2025, carried by Telemundo and Fox Deportes, average approximately 1.87 million viewers in the United States watched the 2025. It's interesting when you look at the halftime show in 2025, they had a rapper, a black rapper. I forgot what was his name. He was a black rapper, and it looks like he's very well liked in the black community. And, they watched it, but I don't know. I think this year we're going to have bigger numbers, to tell you the truth, because there was a Latino that represented, the Latin GDP, right? Every flag in Latin America, and the halftime show for last year was a black rapper. I honestly forgot. I'm not into rappers, so I don't know. But I think a lot of people like him. I think he's like a good rapper or something. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. But I don't feel that the 1.87 million of Spanish viewers, that's not a lot. That's not really that much. So we'll see what the ratings are. I'm going to be following and just looking at to see if they report any ratings, what it is and so forth. So the Spanish language audience was part of a record-breaking total U.S. Super Bowl audience of 127.7 million viewers, making it one of the most watched sporting events in American history. So in total, it was 127 million viewers. Okay. And out of that, 1.87 million were Spanish viewers. Now, why does that matter? Because Nielsen does not inflate Spanish numbers, okay? These are measured, confirmed averages, and they show that Spanish language viewers are no longer a niche add on, okay? They are a measurable, strategic segment of the NFL's total audience. And here's where it gets interesting, okay, for fans, for brands, for businesses, okay, during the 2025 NFL regular season, which feeds directly into the 2026 Super Bowl, the league averaged 18.7 million viewers per game across all platforms. That figure represents the second highest regular season average since Nielsen began tracking NFL viewership. So Spanish language access was widely available during that season through dedicated Spanish broadcast on Telemundo, Fox Deportes, and Spanish audio feeds across major NFL packages. While Nielsen does not release weekly Spanish only ratings for every regular season game, the availability and scale of these feeds combined with record level total audiences confirm one thing clearly. Spanish speaking and bilingual fans are already built into the NFL's growth model. Okay. And so for millennials and businesses, this is the real signal. Okay. Because Hispanic and bilingual audiences over index in streaming and cross platform viewing, meaning their engagement often extends beyond traditional TV ratings. That makes Spanish language NFL coverage not just a broadcast decision, but a long term media and revenue strategy. So, when you hear the NFL expanding Spanish coverage, investing in production and prioritizing cultural alignment, it's not symbolic, it's data driven. Okay. So the takeaway is simple: Spanish language NFL viewership is no longer emerging, it's established, measured, and commercially relevant. And the numbers prove it. Okay. So I expect that this year we're going to have bigger, I would say bigger viewers only because Bad Bunny, millennials love Bad Bunny, okay? He has made an impact in the United States with his music. And, he won a lot of Grammys and trophies and so forth. And a lot of people love his music. There's some that do not love his music, but some people just wanted to watch it just because he was going to perform. I honestly, I'm going to tell you the truth. Well, first of all, when it comes to the Patriots against the Seahawks, I wanted the Seahawks to win. Okay. And I don't know if it's because they're part of the West Coast and, we live out here in the West Coast in California. And, the Patriots are over there in Boston, right? In the East Coast, and nothing wrong with New York, okay? I love New York. I never been there, but I would like to go there, maybe one day, right? I know a lot of people say, "You never been to New York?" No, I've never been to New York. But I will, okay? I will. I will because I'm aligned in New York, okay? My Mercury is down there, my Venus is down there as well. So that means that New York loves me, okay? And they are expecting me over there. One of these days. I don't know, I guess I see myself like the whole Carrie Bradshaw, but I would love to go to New York, not because I'm trying to be Carrie Bradshaw or nothing, like, I'm not even trying to be her. It's just there's a lot of similarities between me and her where, she used to write a column about sex and love and why relationships suck and why, this and this, and I'm more of a podcaster. I'm always very curious like her as well. Like, why is this? Why does this happen? And then I could be a little bit klutzy like her as well and run into so many situations. It's just kind of funny, but it's not like I'm trying to be her, there just might be just similarities. It might has something to do. I know she's an Aries. But that doesn't mean anything, they created this character for her that had to be this way. So it has nothing to do. I don't think it has anything to I think if you ask her, she would say, "No, I'm not like Carrie," "I'm not like Carrie Bradshaw." And, in Sex and the City, the show, I see her more like a Gemini, to tell you the truth. Like, very spontaneous and colorful, and she's always going through breakups and always suffering, because she falls for the wrong guy. And then the nice guy comes in, and then it doesn't work out with the nice guy because she wants the bad guy. You know what I mean? Well, not the bad guy, but she wants the guy that's impossible. And so I think it's a challenge. That's what it is. When you're trying to get someone that you cannot get, it's just a challenge. And then it's kind of like, oh, okay. Then it kind of dies down. It's like, okay, I got him in. I'm not like that, but I used to be that way. And now I just take it more serious, what I want, because I know frequency now. And if you don't take life serious because frequency is alive, you're going to run into a lot of karma. Okay. And so when you understand frequency, which I didn't understand it before, you'll be able to make better decisions, and not run into situations where they're temporary and then all of a sudden you have a breakup, or all of a sudden that business didn't work out, or so because you didn't take it serious. And frequency has to be taken serious. Okay. So I'm going to be talking more on that on the podcast, just to kind of teach a little bit of what I've learned, and quantum leaping and jumping and you know leaping into the right opportunities, not just every opportunity. And that's what happens when you also have a chart like mine, that I have too many sextiles, which is too many opportunities, right? And so for me, if an opportunity didn't work out, I'm like, that's okay. I still have 10 more opportunities. But it could be overwhelming, okay? When you have too many opportunities, right? So I'm not somebody that gets sad or gets depressed because the opportunity didn't fall through or something, or because I got rejected for something. It's like, that's fine. I still have 10 more opportunities. And that's the way my chart is built. This is why people should know their chart. And that's going to be on the website. I am working on my website. Okay. So for those that do want to get a reading with me, because, my predictions do come to pass, they might not happen like overnight, but they will happen within weeks and so forth. And this is why I love doing the astro weather for the collective, because people can get information from me as far as how to move forward, how to make the right decisions, especially on the year of a horse, okay? That you have to be honest and you have to be truthful, because it's a fire horse. And I do want to say that this is a year that you do have to protect yourself, because it's going to be really hot, okay? Really hot. That we're having that Jupiter is coming in Leo, which is fire. And we already have Neptune in Aries, which is fire. And then Saturn is going to jump into Aries, which is fire. And the horse is jumping in, not just a horse, it's a fire horse. So there is going to be a lot of fire. So I would start buying, if you don't have AC in your home, in your place, in your business, buy some, air conditioners, right? And a lot of water, drink a lot of water. We're going to be hearing a lot of people just like really thirsty and having to hydrate themselves all the time. And I think the beaches and the oceans are going to be they're going to be packed with people because it's going to be so hot. Or ice cream parlors. People are going to be buying a lot of ice cream. And so to cool off. So, it's very important that you protect yourself, wear SPF and everything. Is going to be a really hot year, and very fast and very exciting. And I also want to say, okay, for those that are spreading propaganda that, oh, it's going to be so fearful, it's going to be so depressing. And I say, don't listen to that, because you heard it from me. Okay. You heard it from me. There's not going to be no depression this year. There's not going to be no sadness this year. It's too exciting. It's too exciting for it to be depressed. Okay. And then first of all, the planet of depression, which is Saturn, okay, it's going to enter Aries, okay, which is fire. So, where you can get depressed is in Saturn, okay? And unfortunately it also rules suicide. Okay? So a lot of people that commit suicide and so forth, when I'm reading a chart, I always look at where Saturn is placed because that's a planet because it's so strict, it's so rigid, it's so like, very structured, and where there's standards and where it's required for you to and it weighs a ton, it weighs lead. If you know what lead, I used to be a longshoreman, so in on top of the ships, they have a lid, right? And it's, like, super heavy. That thing can crush you and kill you automatically, okay? And so it was very dangerous when they used to lift the lid off the big old ship where they carry all those containers that are coming from China. And they used to lift the lid. Well, they still do. But when I used to work, they used to lift the lid and somebody had to direct, and sometimes we were called signals. I had a position like that several times where I had to direct the traffic as they're lifting the lid, right? They're moving it and they have to place it in the ground, right? So they have to remove it from the top of the ship and then place it in the ground. And if that lid falls and it gets on top of a truck or a person walking or something, that's it. They're done. It weighs, it's so heavy. And so think of that as Saturn, okay? It weighs so heavy that if it crushes on you, that's it. You're done. You're, you're toast. That's it, you know? And so that's how heavy Saturn weighs. And sometimes a lot of people cannot deal with Saturn because it's just too strong, it's too structured, it's just, it's really ruthless, And so you have to be optimistic and you have to be around the right people. You gotta listen to the podcast, okay? I'm very truthful and I'm very optimistic, but at the same time, I also speak truths, okay? And I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything because nothing was sugarcoat on me, okay? And not because of that, but I'm just a real person, Like, I like to just spread truth and honesty, okay? And it could be my Mars at Capricorn and my North Node in Capricorn, where my work has to be in honesty, but you don't have to be, I mean, you have to innovate as well, but people know me that I'm just honest, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything or anything like that. But so Saturn is where you get depressed and stuff, but not this year. Okay. This year with Aries, as a matter of fact, Saturn in Aries, maybe Saturn in Pisces has been depressing. Okay. I'm not going to lie because Saturn and Pisces rules the 12th house, which is always indoors. I think a lot of Pisces have felt kind of like locked in, kind of like if they're in jail and so forth, and now we're going free. Finally, Saturn's off of us, and it's not coming back for 33 years. So we're good. Whatever lessons we learned is not coming for 33 years. But Saturn in Aries, it's freedom. It's traveling. And Aries doesn't listen to Saturn. Okay. So that's going to be another thing. This is why it's in its fall. Okay. It's in its fall position, which means that like Saturn wants to control Aries and say, Aries, be more of a leader. I know people with Saturn and Aries and they are not leaders. Okay. Why? Because they're too all over the place. They're always traveling. They rule Mars. So they're always traveling, going everywhere. They're not listening to Saturn. And so you do have to listen to a certain time. You do have to listen to Saturn because, or else you're going to end up in jail. You're going to end up in some kind of messy situation, And so you do have to obey, but you don't have to obey all the time, You just got to discern, okay? Listen to the people, not the people that are saying, do what I say, not what I do, right? There are those leaders that they want you to listen to them, but they're not obeying themselves, right? They're not being exemplary. And so we only listen to people that have what we want, that know what they're talking about, right? That are being exemplary and being an example of who we should be, right? And so Saturn in Aries is very rebellious. It's in its fall. And I do have to say a lot of men are going to get weak. okay? They're gonna get weakened, and they're gonna start supporting more females, which is about time, you know? They're gonna be more sensitive. They're gonna be it's in his fall. It's they're not gonna be so ruthless, and it's not gonna be so, "Arr, I'm the hawk," or whoever, I mean, "I'm a big old wolf." You know what I mean? It's just not. They're gonna be weak. And in Neptune, the same thing too, you know? And I feel they're gonna be more supportive towards women. So, I don't know why I had to say all that, but it ties into all of this, and so these are the ratings for last year. Okay, going back to NFL. These are the ratings for last year, and we still have not seen for 2026. I think it takes time for them to look at all the numbers and to see what it did, But last year, with Telemundo and Fox Deportes, which is in Spanish, and maybe any cable channels and stuff like that, it was measured at 1.87 million. So I mean, it's still a lot. It's almost 2 million, and so 2 million viewers, Spanish viewers, it contributed to the 127.7 million viewers around the United States, in total. And I don't know, maybe this year, I do feel it might be higher because of Bad Bunny. Okay? Because like I said, a lot of millennials will watch it because of Bad Bunny, And like I said, I wanted the Seahawks to win, and the Patriots are always winning, And I think we needed to get a fair chance to somebody, we wanted some new meat, some new energy, some fresh talent. And this is their second win, So it's not like they're always winning. But I don't know. There's something about the Seahawks and, Eagles and the water, the ocean, it's the sea, right? The North Node's in Pisces, right? I actually don't know what animal they are, but I know the Patriots are a pig, okay? And the pig, this is not their year, okay? It's gonna leave, I think on February 17th when Chinese New Year and it enters in the fire horse. But since 2025, for the pigs, under the year of the snake, it's been their enemy. Okay. So it hasn't been so good. You look at Starbucks, right? Starbucks is a brand of a pig, and they had to close a lot of stores. Okay. There's still some open, but there was a lot of paparazzi around Starbucks, and they were just not drinking Starbucks anymore. They were coming against Starbucks, and they're a pig. So under a year of a snake, okay, it was their enemy. It was their enemy a year, and when it's your enemy year, okay, you have to take a break, go on vacation, go hide out for a year somewhere. If you have enough money, I would vacation all year long. You know what I mean? But you also have to, protect yourself as you're vacationing, because if it's your enemy year, you might run into problems as you're traveling somewhere, maybe delay in your travels, maybe lose your passport. Things like that can happen. So it's just kinda, a year to lay low, if it's your enemy year, like for when the fire horse enters, the rats, okay, those that are born in the year of the rat, it's their enemy year. So for them, they have to just, they don't have to like totally hide out, you know what I mean? Because it's more than Chinese astrology. You also have to look at the astrology, the Western astrology as well, and numerology. But it does matter though. You do have to I mean, we've seen results, right? Who was Elon Musk too? He's a pig, right? And so for last year and part of this year, what happened with Tesla, right? There was a lot of flack on Tesla, a lot of picketing against Tesla. And it's interesting because I didn't know my hometown was also a pig. Wilmington, California, it's a pig, and I didn't even know. So pigs are known for luxury, okay? They're known for being regal and luxury, and they love the fine things, in life. But unfortunately they eat them as well, okay? They eat pigs, Mexicans love pig feet, and ugh, I don't. Or cueritos, they call them cueritos, which is the skin of the pig. I used to love those with tostadas and tapatio and lemon, and now it's like yuck. I won't eat that no more. But I used to love it. you know? That was the only thing I ate of pig, you know? But now I don't even eat pig meat, okay? I don't because it's not good for me health-wise. And but a lot of Mexicans love pig, like carnitas is very like pig, you know? So but there's a lot of good meat that's pig, you know, but I just simply cannot do it because my stomach will start hurting or something like that. So it's something to do with the gut area, like, it's just not healthy, you know? So but my hometown, Wilmington, is a pig, so I don't know how some people in Wilmington, how it's been, but since 2025, it's gonna leave already in February 17th, and then when the horse goes in, they're gonna go free, you know, they're gonna have a good time. Wilmington, California is gonna feel more free. They're gonna feel less, you know, being attacked in some kind of way. And so, like I said, I don't live there anymore, so I don't know how it is, but, you know, it hasn't been that good, you know, because they're a pig. But now with the horse, it gets along well with the pig. Okay. So now Starbucks is going to start, you know, you're probably going to start seeing more Starbucks. You're probably going to start seeing more Tesla. You're probably going to start seeing, you know, more Elon Musk, you know, maybe, or I don't know. I don't know what his plans are. But a lot of people that have pigs, the pig energy is gonna be good for the horse, okay? So, yeah, but for the rats, they have to kinda lay low, you know, and, you know, which interesting that the town I live in right now is a rat. But it is about connecting with other animals that have favor, okay? Like the ox. The ox is gonna be very leadership type, you know? Also, the dog, you know, is good for the horse. So the horse, the dog, and the ox is gonna do really, really good. And so, you know, that's what's going on for this year when we start with the horse. And I think another animal, I'm not sure what other animal. It's all I know is the dog. I've been hearing about the dog, and I don't know, I forgot. I'm not really like, you know, very, very invested in the Chinese astrology, but I do know some of it. And so it's going to be interesting for the horse. So we got to be honest and we got to connect with people and make connections, especially as Uranus enters Gemini, right? That's about people. And so yeah, so these are the ratings, and I just can't wait to see what the ratings are, and you know, because Benito, which I think that's what they call him, right? Bad Bunny, you know, he performed, and I think a lot of people were watching, you know. A lot of Latinos were backing him up and doing videos. I haven't even looked at TikTok. I'm pretty sure TikTok is inundated with videos. And I did see a couple of them in X. And I think I posted one of this one famous lady, a Spanish television lady, where she does, I think her show is like the dating game, but it's in Spanish, and she's a Virgo. And so she did this dance of, you know, of Bad Bunny, of how you should dance like Bad Bunny, you know. It was kind of funny. But there, you know, it doesn't matter whether young or old or, you know, everybody loves Bad Bunny and, you know, and what he represented, which, you know, all the flags. But the American people were just they were not on board, you know. They didn't understand the music, but some were supportive. And it was very political, okay? Very political. Even some Americans were like, "I don't care what the words say. I support them," you know? And but there are some other Americans that were like, that was not too American," you know? Or the dancing was too sexy. But they did have violins, okay? We didn't talk about that, right? They did have the mariachi divas, right? That are in Disneyland, right? They're based out of Disneyland. They do mariachis there and they perform everywhere else. I've seen them in person and they're really good. And you know, they were invited there to use their violins and make it like an orchestra type, you know, not just being so, you know, sexy and stuff, you know. So it had different type of, you know, of culture and all of that. So yeah, we'll see what the ratings are, but I just wanted to report a little bit on what it was last year with having a black rapper perform in the halftime show, you know? And I feel he's going to be higher this year because of Bad Bunny. You know, I really do. I think more people are watching it especially for, being that in the NFL regular season in 2025, the average 18.7 million viewers per game across all platforms. It was the second highest average since Nielsen began tracking. And the Spanish language, it feeds broadly available via Telemundo, Sunday Night Football, Fox Deportes, SAP, across Sunday afternoon games, meaning Spanish audiences did have access across the season, even if Nielsen doesn't publish every language split. But, they still watch it throughout the year to prepare them for the NFL to watch, and also Spanish audio, okay, isn't isolated, okay? There's also audio in Spanish in the radio and is tied into major packages through the NFL. And Nielsen has expanded measurements, including out-of-home and digital platforms, which captures more of this audience than ever before through detailed language splits that aren't fully released publicly yet. Okay. So it's very strong, the Latino GDP, and I feel it's going to get stronger as the years go by. And so it is a good thing. And so I can't wait to see what the numbers are for this year. But for last year, it was, I did say 1.87 million average viewers. Okay. So hopefully everybody is having a great day and you guys enjoyed the podcast and got some information or just enjoyed listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like it, or comment if you have any questions on there. And I will continue on the next podcast.